If you had £85 million, John, to fix the profession, what would you spend it on?
The Guardian slams architects for not being technical enough.
AI, I mean, there's some opportunities and challenges there. It's got the potential to erode further the role of the architect. Grenfell's a terrible tragedy, but it's a concrete frame building wrapped in plastic and metal, and yet timber gets banned. So welcome to Urban Forecast Podcast. This week we're doing something slightly different. So John and I, the hosts of the show and also the founders of Acrid Larry, are going to do a little discussion on the kind of the future outlook for the architecture profession. This idea for an episode was kind of spurred by Harry Phillips, who has done a great LinkedIn post about the proposals for the House of Architecture, I think it's called, which is RIBA's plan to spend £85 million redeveloping their own headquarters. So I suppose the working title of the podcast is, if you had £85 million, John, to fix the profession, what would you spend it on?
Well, I certainly wouldn't spend it on the new headquarters, I think. I think it's a bit of a kind of vanity project. For me, at the moment, I think Harry's post is all about the architecture profession being a bit of a low ebb and everyone feeling the pressure and the idea of having a fancy members club where I take my clients to, that when I go to the toilet someone tries to nick them doesn't make any sense. So I think, what would I do with it? I think I'd probably rewind, and everyone gets obsessed with the idea of, the role of the architect. Well, architects do, everyone else doesn't give a shit, to be honest, but architects themselves are always like, oh, I'm not paid enough and I should get this and we should protect our title. But I think, protect the title is a weird one, because the original thing was a chief builder, wasn't it? If you go back to the Greek, I think it is that, and it was only a name made up in 1500. So I think really what is an architect? It's someone who kind of creates buildings or designs buildings and brings people together. It doesn't matter whether you've got a degree, really. I know that, some people might disagree, but I don't think that's the important bit. So I think we need to maybe have a research facility that really supports the profession, that kind of comes up with ideas and is like an incubator lab. Maybe that could work, but I think what I've seen of the plans, it doesn't do that. It doesn't support.
So how many millions? I think maybe £5 million goes to research into materials.
Oh yeah, look at the problem at the moment. The Guardian slams architects for not being technical enough. So what do we do about it? Well, no one's got any money. They're trying hard to do research, but they can't do it. So I'd say 25 million put on it. You know what I mean?
You've only got 85, so there's a few more points. Yeah, 25. Okay, yeah, good. No, I totally agree. I think I agree with you on the fact there's no point protecting our title. We've got to go out and demonstrate our own value. Mm-hmm. And I think Harry has said another wonderful thing, which is that he thinks that architects in general aren't very good at communicating their value to their clients.
Yeah. And
I think that's as a profession and as individual architects. So. Yes, research would help. It is just, and this is a sort of a doom spiral, I suppose, that the less money architects feel they have or really have, the less likely they are going to invest in research that would then set them apart or, demonstrate value to clients. So I think, yes, 25 million going to research department that could sort of for the benefit of the whole industry. Totally,
because I think the danger is we think we're competing amongst each other as architects, but actually really we're trying to create value for people in the real world. So for me, if you're going, how do I create better buildings that will sell more or create more jobs or whatever, then you're starting to having something that's really interesting. Where if you're like, oh well, I'm just competing with an architect up the road, that's not really what it's about.
And so what about AI? I mean, there's some opportunities and challenges there. It's got the potential to erode further the role of the architect, I think, realistically. But also, I think it has the potential to maybe increase productivity, which is a way that we can increase our fees. Yeah. What are you thinking with how much of the 85 million are you going to invest into AI?
I think quite a lot. It's got to be it's a game changer. I do think the formal practices will change. I think it's going to be really tough, and we're going to have to redefine ourselves in the next 10 years. So I think, a good 20 million. I'd
45 times.
I'm spending fast. What do you think?
I think I probably would have I'd maybe combine the research. I think I'd put more into AI than I would into the materials research lab.
I think it's just the kind of post-Grenfell BSA world to support the profession. Everyone's struggling with it, so to create clarity around what's acceptable and engage with that. I don't know what form that would make, but if you can make that strengthen the profession's technical core and then also lead us to kind of do. But you might be right.
No, personally, I think, I mean, my big bugbear at the moment is trying to use mass timber, or cross-laminated timber, or timber frame in any project is really challenging post-Grenfell. So Grenfell's a terrible tragedy, but it's concrete frame building wrapped in plastic and metal, and yet timber gets banned.
Yeah.
Where's the logic there? And I do think, some of this 85 million is going to go to research and then probably some lobbying. I feel like maybe the construction the cement industry got there first, or the mineral wool, or whatever. Like these products that now our hands are kind of tied behind our backs when it comes to the specification of low embodied material, natural materials on buildings that are over 18 metres. Yeah. And that's a real shame because that's not the case in other countries. I think you can have tall buildings that are safe, that are timber structure.
Oh, totally. They're doing it in Europe, they're doing it in Japan particularly. Yeah. We're working with some Japanese companies that are really pushing high timber, but it doesn't quite work in the UK at the moment.
So I'm putting 10 million into lobbying.
Okay.
Just on behalf of architects but really
but you need the background
materials.
of the research to support.
Yeah. I'm building on top of your lab and your AI capacities.
We spent 55, right? We've got 30 million left. We've got to be careful now.
Yeah. Okay. So what are you? I mean, I think one of the things that crosses my mind is the sort of architects tend to have this reputation for like being bad at business, whether that means bad at business or bad at marketing, bad at sales. So is there a sort of way of chucking maybe 5 million into a sort of like incubator?
Sales academy, or like a so that we can actually, like again, I was saying that if you go back to the history of it, the definition between architect, surveyor, engineer didn't really matter. And it's like, how do we stop? Oh, we've got to be architects. We can only do this little thing. It's like, no, how do we actually make better buildings? How do we make better cities? How do we make
more money? Like businesses don't run without money.
Cities make money, right? There's lots of money in cities. It's just how you access that. And if you can create value, but it's sort of trying to prove that. So I think that would be your lobbying bit that kind of demonstrates it. But you probably need a business school or something linking up with, I don't know, LSE or whoever, and having an incubator lab for sort of generating marketing. And
well, you kind of end up with almost like a Y Combinator for British businesses. It doesn't need I certainly wouldn't be limiting this spend to architects. I think it's people that are in the sort of the ecosystem of architecture, and therefore people with innovative materials, they can come in, they can kind of pitch in like Dragon's Den, or why. I just remembered the name and I've forgotten it again now. Why Incubator, was it? No, it's called Why something else. Shit, I've forgotten the name. Anyway, in a kind of a business incubator and an environment where maybe a couple of different startups can be backed, equity backing, and also then guiding them. So getting, other kind of entrepreneurs to maybe sit on their boards and guide them through that growth process. I mean, in our own personal experience of working in AL and building a company, I thought that having a non-exec was one of the fundamental pivotal moments of our business.
I think having a non-exec who is from a tech background, so sort of kind of didn't listen to architectural nonsense and kind of was talking about business and tech and money and all the rest of it. That was, I think, completely transformative for us. So I think, is there a mentoring program that goes with that or something that?
Well, exactly, but almost mentoring from cross-sector, because architects do tend to get stuck in their own heads and actually, so we had somebody from a tech background who was able to. He just talked about sales for about 2 hours, and I remember at the end of it, me and John were like, "What's the difference between sales and revenue again?"
You do know now.
But now we know, and it makes a big difference. And I think just more training on just the way that you can. The different ways to grow businesses, different business models.
I totally think that's totally right. I think, could there be some money that's used as a multiplier effect, so you kind of match fund with some things, because 85 million will go quite quickly.
Well, no, I think we're at 55 now. Then I chucked 5 in for the business incubator, but we've still got 25. Yeah. Some of that we want as the fund. Yeah. The architects, sort of venture fund. So maybe that's another 10 million. So we've only got 15 million left.
So what we're going to do with the headquarters of the RIBA, they own on a peppercorn.
It's a good point. I mean, nothing. They don't own it. What's the point? Like, who at the moment thinks that non-digital assets are a good thing to invest loads and loads of money into?
Or can you team up with someone else and make it a bit more interesting? If it feels like with when I've been to Portland Place, I haven't been for a while actually, but like I would go there a bit. There's a nice library there. There's a bit of an old hall. There's a few things, but it's like it does feel like something from 100 years ago and not have that much relevance to a practicing architect. Really,
it's in such a specific location which you can't change.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I'd get like a big minibus and travel it around the country. Like if you want to do something that helps practices. It's in a very particular location, which I don't think is handy for anybody, really. It's in a very sort of dead bit of West London. As you say, who's going to take any clients there? Why would you? I kind of, before they do the refurbishment works, I want to have a rave in it. I've suggested that to Harry Phillips, because like, if they're going to be tearing out the interior,
sign up to that when you saw
my new friend Chris Williamson. I'm sure. Well, I haven't pitched it to him, but I'm sure he'll be on board. Because other than that, I think it's pointless. As you say, it's a skeleton from another time, and sell the 100-year peppercorn rent and invest more money in having something that can work regionally. Like they've just closed down the
Haven't you just
online...
lost a big asset though, that like in 10 years time when your AI Academy doesn't work and whatever else, then you've kind of like lost the sort of cornerstone of it?
I haven't lost. I mean, they can rent it to somebody else if they want to keep their ownership.
I think you could maybe keep the ownership and do some sublets to generate money. There must be some businesses that could
actually type thing.
Yeah, you can put part of your lease on
it's part of your incubator, isn't it? You've got all the businesses in there working away.
Incubators and stuff, but get a load of people in there.
But with some real light industrial stuff on the ground floor, so like a sort of maker space.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool. Like having machinery in.
You could have your research, unit down there. You can build like loads of kind of testing materials.
Okay, fine. So we're going to keep it. So that means we need to put like 10 million. I mean, 10 million is barely going to scratch the surface. People will have to fit it out themselves. We'll do
you kind of have to make it commercially viable.
Yeah, Cat A, and then you come and fit it out yourself as part of your incubation.
What I don't think it should be as a vanity project for the RIBA. It needs to actually be something that makes a difference to building better cities, which is their brief, really.
Yeah, totally agree. What about, so things that we haven't covered, thought leadership and content. I think architects are very good at talking to themselves, and perhaps this episode of our podcast is a bit guilty of that.
Point.
Yeah, but we need to be going out there, making people understand on a day-to-day what we do. I'm trying to put a positive spin on it. I think there was a survey recently, 2% of the country trust developers, and I know we're not developers, but we do tend to work for them. What can we do with the remaining 10 million or 5 million to try and enhance the reputation of architects and make people better understand what we do and what value we bring?
I just think that the problem is architects are very disconnected, and I think a lot of people are pissed off with buildings that don't work, don't understand it, and so I think the new medium of like architecture, new medium of social media has a power to maybe transmit information and make it heard by a lot of different audiences. So you could use that as a way of kind of trying to interconnect people, because I do like real life connection, but the benefit of the social side is that you can reach a much larger audience and maybe bring them together at Portland Place to discuss how
so we need to get lots of people, do live events and get people in who aren't architects, and then broadcast that on socials. So we're putting 5 million into socials, into TikTok.
Shares in TikTok.
Okay, well, I think that was... is there anything else that I think we've got 5 million left. I think maybe something to do with unsiloing the construction industry might be interesting. Like, in terms of... I don't feel like there's a great overlap between builders and architects.
Totally. I like, in a way, also architects say, I don't want to do CDM, I don't want to do project management, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. Like, that was never, get involved and trying to kind of connect up, and actually maybe we do need to join up more with other engineering practices and different people and scientists and material makers, and we all talk about that, but actually making it happen is harder.
Well, I think £5 million would probably be enough to make it happen to some extent.
Come on, Chris Williamson.
Okay, well, thank you very much, John, for this little mini episode. That was quite good fun.